There are things written in ancient texts that were never meant to be obvious, not hidden, but not explained either. They sit there quietly for centuries, read by millions, quoted in sermons, debated by scholars, and yet almost completely misunderstood. Not because they are complicated, but because people are not trained to see patterns. They are trained to read stories. And there is a difference, because a story entertains the mind, but a pattern controls outcomes. And once you understand that distinction, something shifts. You stop asking, "What does this mean?" And you start asking, "What does this produce?" There comes a point in life where effort stops being the answer, not because effort is wrong, but because effort alone stops working. You try harder, you adjust your strategy, and you follow advice that has worked for others. And still, your results refuse to match your effort. That moment is uncomfortable, because it forces a question most people avoid. What if the problem is not what I'm doing, but what I don't understand? The invisible wall. There is a specific kind of frustration that doesn't come from failure. It comes from repetition, doing the same things, getting the same outcomes, watching time pass without meaningful change. And over time, something dangerous begins to form, not outside, inside. A quiet belief. Maybe this is just how it is for me. That belief is not loud, but it is powerful, because once it settles, you stop looking for deeper answers. The shift, seeing differently. But there is another possibility, one that most people overlook entirely. What if the limitation you are experiencing is not external? What if it is structural? Meaning, you are operating inside a system you don't fully understand, and because you don't understand it, you cannot influence it. Enter Genesis, but differently. There is a moment in the book of Genesis that most people read quickly. It doesn't appear dramatic. There is no fire from heaven, no splitting of seas, no visible miracle. Just a man, working, negotiating, adjusting his environment, and then suddenly, his results change. Not slightly, exponentially. What people miss. Most readers assume it was luck, or timing, or coincidence. But that interpretation ignores something important. Consistency, because when something happens once, it can be luck. But when a pattern produces a consistent outcome, it is no longer luck. It is design. Deep analysis, without superstition. Look closely at what actually happened. The man did not simply work harder, he did something different. He changed what was placed in front of what he was trying to influence. He introduced a pattern into the environment, something visible, something repeated, something unavoidable. And over time, that pattern began to shape the outcome. Psychological foundation. Now pause here, because this is where most people misunderstand everything. They assume the outcome came from the object, the sticks, the stripes, the physical setup. But that is not the point. The point is what the object represented. It created focus, and focus, when repeated, creates direction. Direction influences behavior, and behavior produces results. Modern translation. Let's bring this into your life, right now. Think about what you see daily, your phone, your surroundings, your financial situation. What do those things reinforce? Scarcity, pressure, limitation? Because whatever you see most often becomes what you believe most deeply. The real code. This is where the idea of a code comes in, but not in the way people think. A code is not magic. It is not superstition. It is not numbers on their own. A code is a structured input that produces a predictable output. That's all it is, and once you understand that, everything becomes clearer. Breaking the illusion. When people hear about hidden codes, they expect shortcuts. Something easy, something instant. But real systems don't work like that. They work through alignment. And alignment requires awareness. So when you look again at that moment in Genesis, you begin to see something else. The man was not guessing. He was not experimenting randomly. He was applying something intentionally, a pattern, repeated exposure, controlled focus. And that combination changed the outcome. Now here's where this becomes practical. Because if you misunderstand this, you'll turn it into a ritual. And rituals without understanding don't produce lasting results. So instead of asking, what number should I write? Ask, what am I reinforcing daily? Because that is what shapes your decisions. Deeper layer, perception. Perception is not passive, it is active. It filters what you notice, what you ignore, what you act on. Two people can be in the same situation and see completely different opportunities. Why? Because their perception is different. The role of repetition and perception is shaped by repetition, not once, not occasionally, daily. What you see repeatedly becomes what you expect. What you expect influences what you pursue. What you pursue determines what you receive. Why some people break through. This is why some people seem to break through suddenly. From the outside, it looks like luck, but internally, something shifted before the result appeared. They began to see differently, and because they saw differently, they acted differently. The wallet idea reframed intelligently. Now let's address something specific, the idea of placing something in your wallet. On the surface, it sounds simple, almost too simple, but the value is not in the object, it is in the interruption. Every time you open your wallet, you are forced to see something intentional, and that moment interrupts your default thinking. Mental reprogramming. Instead of reacting to what is missing, you are reminded of what you are aligning toward, and that shift matters. Because most financial behavior is emotional, not logical. People don't make decisions based on numbers. They make decisions based on perception. The real change. So when perception changes, decisions change. When decisions change, behavior changes. When behavior changes, results follow. That is the sequence, not magic, not luck, structure. Time expectation, realistic. Now does this produce instant results? Sometimes, but not always. And that's important to understand, because if you expect immediate outcomes, you'll miss gradual transformation. Why some see quick results? When change happens quickly, it's usually because the person was already close to an opportunity. Their behavior shifts immediately, they act faster than before, so the result appears sudden. But it was actually building. There are three main obstacles you will face. First, doubt. Because anything that challenges your current belief system will feel uncomfortable. Second, distraction. Because once you start focusing differently, your attention will be pulled in other directions. Third, inconsistency. Because repetition is what creates results, not intensity. At its core, this is not about wealth, it's about control. Not control over everything, but control over what shapes your decisions. Because once you control that, you influence outcomes. So if there is something hidden in that ancient story, it is not a number, it is a principle, a pattern, a structure that most people overlook. And once you see it, you stop chasing results blindly and start creating them intentionally. If this shifted your thinking even slightly, write this. I understand the pattern. Because awareness is the first step, and once you see it, you can start using it. And now you're standing at a quiet but powerful crossroads. Nothing around you may look different yet. Your bank account may still show the same numbers. Your environment may still feel unchanged. But something far more important has shifted. You are no longer operating blindly. You've seen the pattern. And once awareness enters your mind, ignorance loses its grip. From this moment forward, Every decision you make carries a different weight. Every action becomes more intentional. Every opportunity becomes more visible. Because you are no longer reacting to life, you are engaging with it consciously. This is where most people turn back. They hear something like this, feel inspired for a moment, and then return to old patterns. Don't do that. Stay with this. Observe your thoughts, direct your focus, repeat what aligns you, because real change is not loud, it is quiet, consistent, deliberate, and if you remain with it long enough, you won't just hope for different results, you will expect them, and eventually, you will see them.